Gaikoku Gamers.
Bite-sized.
Welcome to Gaikoku Gamers. I'm Darryl Benson. I'm here with another episode of Bite-Sized. So today's episode, well, one of today's episodes, is about the Panasonic Q, that system. So I want to talk about collecting for this system because honestly, it's very difficult, needlessly difficult. So long story short, way back in the day when Nintendo was making the GameCube and designing the GameCube, they realized that they needed some help creating the disk drive, the DVD disk drive with the little mini discs, still DVDs as mini DVDs. Be that as it may, so they went ahead and tried to hire Panasonic to make their drives for them. Well, Panasonic kind of saw that as a bit of a bum deal. They wanted to get something else out of it. They wanted to push more DVD units. So they said, hey, we'll be more than happy to develop this technology for your GameCube, but you have to allow us to be able to sell a DVD unit that also plays GameCube games. Nintendo didn't see much of a problem with this because as far as they're concerned, you know, they were not really making a lot of money on the system anyway. They're making money from their games, so they greenlighted it. Now nowadays I don't think that'll ever happen again. I actually think the Panasonic Q is probably the last system like that where you see another company making a system with their name on it for a gaming company. But you know, back then Nintendo apparently thought it was a good idea, and we have this. So this thing, it looks really amazing. First off, it plays import discs only, stock. Now this is a huge misconception about this system. See, back when this thing was brand new, back in what, 2001, there was a, I don't know if you guys remember this website, but it was Lixang, and they're a great website, and if it wasn't for Sony, they'd still be around still. Thanks, Sony. No, seriously, they went after Lixang for doing the same thing that everyone does on eBay or PlayAsia or Amazon or any other place where people sell import systems. That's another story for another day. But be that as it may, what Lixang was doing was that for an extra $50, there was this company that doesn't exist anymore, but there's this company that for $50 would put in a mod chip that would allow you to not only play Japanese DVDs and Japanese GameCube games, but it also allow you to play US games and US DVDs, which is fantastic. Now the misconception is that a lot of people who own these things don't know they're chipped because they're not the original owners anymore. So they get these things and they do reviews like this on YouTube and they go ahead and claim that this system is region free. It's not. If it's region free, if you have a region free one, it's been modded. Either by Lixang or somebody else, it's been modded. Now, if you have a stock unit, then obviously you can only play Japanese stuff. Now, there's a few problems with the Panasonic Q just in terms of functionality. They did release a Panasonic Q Game Boy Advance adapter. It looked very similar to the one that you find in a regular GameCube, except I don't know if you can tell from, actually you probably can't tell from this picture, but the Panasonic Q basically is sitting on big, almost like stilts, right? They have like these big, really tall feet. It's not like the GameCube, which pretty much sits almost directly on the coffee table or wherever you have it. Anywho, the Game Boy Advance adapter had to be adapted for this. Now, the Panasonic Q does play with, you know, the modem adapter and the broadband adapter, and that's great. But, you know, that one attachment, if you want to play GameCube, or if you want to play Game Boy Advance games on your GameCube, on the Panasonic Q specifically, can run you about $600 plus for an accessory that typically with the disc goes for about 50 bucks on eBay for a regular GameCube. That's insane. So you need to know that initially. Number two, Datel or Datel, I don't know how they pronounce it, but they made a whole bunch of accessories back in the day. And one of the things that they made was a Game Boy Advance adapter that plugged into the second memory card slot. Now this thing did work, but there's a few caveats. Number one, it only plays Game Boy Advance games, so color games, regular, Pocket game, or, the Pocket games that were converted to color, regular Game Boy games, none of that is playable. The second problem is that many of the games that were on the Game Boy Advance did not play right. Either there were major sound issues, or worse, horrible slowdown or controller lag. And this actually happened on many of the primo titles that everyone's going to want to buy. So basically the adapter is kind of junk, and the only reason why they ever sell on eBay for any money is simply because there are people out there with Panasonic Qs who don't really have an alternative. Now, right now, as of this recording, which is August 24th of 2014, there is a box brand new Panasonic Q Game Boy Advance adapter. However, again, it's like 400 something British pounds, so do the math. It's well over $600. It's $650 something dollars, and no, that's more than the Panasonic Q is worth itself. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, as much as you're a collector out there, this is pathetic. Now, anyway, the system was really cool. It offered some options that the regular GameCube simply never had. Not only did it have digital out, which is basically component, those cables for the GameCube that cost like 150, 180 bucks right now. Yeah, it also has that compatibility, which is great. It also has AV compatibility, but the AV compatibility is a little different. Instead of using the Nintendo cords, it uses, typical RCA male-to-male cords. So you plug it in the back, kind of like an old receiver or something. You plug in the ports to the back, and then plug in the ports to the back of your TV, and voila, there you go. The other thing is that it has a subwoofer RCA jack, so you can actually get more bass. Speaking of which, I don't know if you see this mirrored finish, but basically it had a bunch of buttons on it. You have different sound options on there, bass settings, etc. There's only one setting for the game, one extra setting for the game. However, there's a slew of settings that you can have if you're, playing DVDs on this thing. Nowadays, I'm assuming that's kind of like ho-hum, because let's face it, any Blu-ray player has DVD functionality, and even if you don't have a Blu-ray player, you have a DVD player already. Back in 2001, though, this was pretty cool, although this retailed for like $430 brand new, so I can't say it was even a bargain back then. Be that as it may, it's a really cool system. It looks like a little jukebox. It has an LCD panel right up here that glows blue. Each of the 4 controller ports glows blue on the outside. Around the controller port has all these different buttons on it, and it has a slide-out tray. This is where it starts getting interesting. This slide-out tray had some plastic components inside of it that would break more easily than you can possibly imagine. In fact, this is kind of the whole point of the video. So it turns out this thing literally can't be shipped. In many cases, it breaks even if you don't ship it. I bought one of these things about 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, and it came, even though it was fully bubble wrapped and everything, it came with a plastic rattle inside the casing. I went, oh god, what broke? Couldn't figure it out at first. Everything seems like it played fine initially. After about a day's worth of play, the tray stopped coming out. And not only did the tray start coming out, but even if you got your fingernails or something to wedge in there and pulled out the tray, put the disc in, and then pushed it back in, for some stupid reason, mid-gameplay, it would actually push the tray out into the open position and wouldn't close back in. This is all very common, too common. In fact, I was looking at getting one of these systems again, thinking maybe it wasn't so bad. The guy who I was going to buy it from, he said it was working, obviously everything's great, blah blah blah. 62 people were watching the auction. He emails me, hey, I just tested it. Even though I tested it last week and it was working perfectly fine, it's no longer working. This is the shady part. He had this listing for X amount of dollars, right? And he then went ahead and tried to go ahead and sell the system for considerably less. Let's just call it Y. And then he split up everything. The controller, the cords, the AV cords, the box, The manuals, yes, the manuals he separated from the box. Here's the funny thing, is that he wanted like ridiculous prices. You can get like a Panasonic, which is a gray controller, as you see there. It looks like a GameCube controller, except it says Panasonic and a model number right on the front instead of GameCube. Otherwise, it's exactly the same outside the color. But you can get them for about 68 to 75 or so dollars. Sometimes they're 80, whatever. He wanted $100 for that. He wanted like 30 something dollars for the power cord, even though it's a standard like power cord. I think it's the same as a Dreamcast or a PS2. Let's see, what else did he want? Oh yeah, he wanted like $150 for the box. He wanted like $50 for the manuals. Basically, all said and done, when he split it up, it was the exact same price as what he got, what he wanted for it complete working. These people online try to screw you over. And so I thought, okay, well, whatever. I looked on all of Craigslist. I found one in California. Everything's going great, blah, 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 blah. He's like, hey, are you ready to buy? I said, yeah, sure, I'm ready to buy. He's like, well, just for safety, let me go ahead and take a video for you. I didn't even ask for it. Fine, here's a video. He sends me a video via Dropbox, and as he's trying to get something, hooked up and everything, he realizes that the disk drive is broken. And he's like, this disc worked, I swear to God, I don't know what it is, I'll try to work on it, blah, blah, blah. Another thing is that people online, especially with these rare systems, they don't understand that collectors like me or other people really want things in mint condition. Because even if I was okay with it being non-functional, essentially, there was a gigantic scratch on the back. I'm talking about this long. On the tops where the arches are that house the LCD panel, there were numerous scratches. And then worst of all, in the back corner, where the ports are, on the very back corner, it looked like someone dropped it from this height straight to the ground. And a gigantic dent. I don't know if you can tell, but I mean, this is like all stainless steel casing on the outside. Granted, it's glass in the front, but in the back, it's all stainless steel. It dented it in considerably. Like if this was supposed to be the corner, it went like this. Pretty bad. And I've been finding that this is just simply the reality for the system. You either get them working, heavily cosmetic, wear, which I found is actually mostly because a lot of these have been repaired at some point in time, or modded at some point in time. There was a guy who on YouTube, I don't remember who he was, or else I put a link, who did a disassembly of the Q that he had, and on the front panel, on the inside of the front panel, there was someone's eBay username and a price. So basically it had been parted out at one point in time. These systems, since they're so inherently crap, are just not worth the price tag. I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars here, and while you might think, oh, well, it's okay, I sold X system and X system, and now I have money, and I'm going to go get me this because I never was able to get it, do not. Here's what I would suggest you do. I wouldn't even get one locally. I wouldn't even get one at all. See, that's the thing. At first I thought, oh, okay, local is the best way to go. No, they're just as bad because they can turn, even if they work just before, those mechanisms just from daily use in the disk drive can break. So it's not just shipping. Shipping just makes it worse. Shipping just kind of accelerates the process, but basically eventually all of these will break. And that cheap plastic piece in there is impossible to get to because it's inside the disk assembly. And on top of that, you can't buy the part. Even if you could get in there, no one makes the part. Now with 3D printing and everything, maybe eventually this will be done, but if you've ever seen the inside of one of these, it is not a GameCube inside. Okay, a regular GameCube, you take a screwdriver on the bottom, you go screw, 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 and the whole lid just pulls off and you have access to the complete system. That's why they're so easy to mod, that's why they're so easy to go ahead and repair. They're awesome cases for an awesome system. But this Q, on the other hand, has about 8 bajillion different screws, 8 bajillion different freaking cables and ribbons, because it has all this extra boards and DVD functionality and LCD panels, and basically you have to take out the fans, you have to take out every freaking chip because the motherboard is the last thing you can access. The last thing you can access. it is not worth your time. And here is my suggestion. Get an import GameCube. You can even get a special edition import GameCube for a fraction of the price that you can on this. Use it for use that extra money for component cables. Use that extra money for games. Use that extra money that you have for things that you'll actually use. But as cool as this thing sits on your shelf, it'll only become a quick regret. Because as pretty as it is, it'll never be usable. Panasonic generally makes really good equipment. My two 3DO FC10s are freaking amazing. They're rock solid. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it was time constraints or new technology for the slide tray, it is not like your typical DVD or Blu-ray player. This thing is cheaply made, poorly made, and it'll break. And then you'll have a huge investment that is literally worth not even half the price, because that is about how much people are willing to pay for when it's broken. And I don't even know why people pay as much as they do for them broken, because the only way that they can actually get it to fix is that if it won't come in and out, they pry open a DVD player, which eventually creates wear in the face of this thing. Or number two, if it always wants to come out, they literally tape the front. Who wants to go through that much hassle? Here's what I did. In Japan, they made, you know the Spice Orange controllers that we got here for the GameCube? They made a whole system like that. Not only did they make a whole system like that, they made a matching Game Boy Advance player. Now here in America, they only made a black Game Boy Advance player. I don't know why. We had silver GameCubes, we had indigo GameCubes, we had all sorts of different color GameCubes here, except for Spice and all the other special editions that they got, but whatever. We only got black. You can get an indigo colored one, a black colored one, a Spice colored one. There's a Tales of Symphonia GameCube over there that's teal, with this Tales of Symphonia logo on the top, with a matching teal Game Boy Advance player and controller. They have a Char's Gundam. It's like a salmon color. It's kind of ugly, but it's worth a lot of money. GameCube with matching Game Boy Advance player and controller. My point is that there's a lot of cool options that you can get instead of getting this heap of junk. So if you want something a little special that isn't your typical black or purple GameCube or silver GameCube, go get an import regular GameCube, but with a funky color. Here's the thing. The Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy and the Game Boy Pocket and Game Boy Color, all the Game Boy line is region free. So as long as you get a import Game Boy Advance player with a disc, a Japanese disc for the Japanese player, you can play any American Game Boy or Game Boy Advance game that you have in your collection. Yeah, so you don't need to settle for the black player. And furthermore, this thing, or not this thing, fuck this thing, a regular GameCube is really easy to get to. Remember I told you, just a couple screws and boom, you're off. You can go ahead and mod to your heart's desire. You can still get those chips, those mod chips. It's fairly easy. I wouldn't start on this system, but it's pretty easy soldering job. It's like 2 seconds, man. It's like 2 points. That's it. Put that in there, and now you have functionality for US games, and now you have functionality for Japanese games. And let's face it, only thing this thing offers realistically is DVD playback, and you have a bajillion boxes that do that already. Your Xbox One, your PlayStation 4, your PlayStation 3, your PlayStation 2, your Xbox original, for fuck's sakes, and your Xbox 360, nonetheless standalone players. They all do DVDs, and they all do it pretty much just as good as this. I said Xbox, so this stupid thing is listening to me. Hi, cable box. Anyway, so don't get a Panasonic Q. It'll just bring you nothing but heartache. Other people will tell you that it's amazing, and you might get suckered into it because it's so pretty looking, and because we didn't get it over here in the United States, and it's just so unique. But I'm telling you, trust me, it is not worth your time. Get a spice colored one, get any colored one. You can get a spice colored one with a spice colored Game Boy adapter, with a spice colored, I don't know why I'm getting emails, so sorry about this, with a spice colored controller, hookups, everything, for under $100. Sometimes if you're lucky, like $60. It's crazy how cheap they are. They used to be worth a lot more, not so much anymore. For whatever reason, Japan is not worth a lot of money when it comes to their game GameCube import systems. Their games are going up in value, but their systems are going down. To give you an idea, I actually had a spice-colored GameCube. Let's see here. I had a spice-colored GameCube about 4 years ago or so, and that thing cost me, without the player, that thing cost me $250. So they're definitely going down in value. They're definitely a lot cheaper, and I definitely recommend it. Go that route. Screw the Q. Leave this alone. Leave it on eBay. Do not get suckered into it. And that is my bite-sized advice. Although we went over 20 minutes, I'm sorry for the long video. We will see you next time. Have a good one.